one less Russian warship. Keith Kellogg is back in Ukraine, and the UN Security Council is convening over the attack on Poland. This and more coming up on TSN. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch, comment, and while you're hitting the like button, here are a few more topics from today's episode. The flower of death for the occupiers.
Repeat, in the same positions, no trading.
The Ukrainian Gvozdika destroys enemies in Zaporizhzhia. Here, those who previously left their unit without permission are given a second chance. A Su-27 plane crashed in the Zaporizhzhia direction, and a Ukrainian pilot was killed. This was reported by the 39th Tactical Aviation Brigade. 30-year-old Major Alexander Borovik was carrying out a combat mission. The causes and circumstances of the pilot's death are currently being investigated. The Air Force Command and Alexander's comrades expressed their sincere condolences to the family and loved ones of the deceased. 2 civilians were killed and another 10 injured as a result of Russian shelling in Donetsk region. More than 50 residential houses have been destroyed. The occupiers dropped 7 aerial bombs on Kostiantynivka. A man was killed in his own home, and another person did not survive the Russian shelling in Novorossiysk. The war criminals launched an Iskander-M missile at the settlement. Kramatorsk is also under constant enemy fire. Just yesterday, 6 people were wounded, including 2 teenagers aged 16 and 17. The Russians are attacking the city with drones of various types. The shelling lasted for more than 10 hours. The central square, a school, the market, and residential buildings were damaged. During the rescue of people, drones deliberately targeted law enforcement officers, paramedics, and firefighters, damaging fire trucks.
We need some help. Why are they doing this to us? These are civilians. We are peaceful people, we just make a living here.
This is just a market, right?
Yes, it's just a market, nothing special, really small. Why? You know, my husband, it's good that he told me, get down. So I fell down there in the stall, and it hit right next to us.
Police paramedics were providing assistance. While inspecting the area, there was a second drone strike. It's flying. It's flying. Spread out. That's it. It's coming down. Move. Let's go. Right here.
They left! They left! That's it!
Get out of here! The Russians attacked police officers in the Kharkiv region near the village of Osynove. A drone struck a service vehicle carrying 5 law enforcement officers. 3 police officers were wounded, and medics are providing them with assistance. Shelling destroyed houses in the village of Hrushivka. 2 women have been hospitalized. In Kyiv, the looters targeted an ambulance. 2 medics were injured. And today, in the hospital, a 15-year-old boy who was severely wounded in the village of Pishchane has died. Doctors tried to save him for a month, but his injuries turned out to be too severe. Zaporizhzhia was also attacked by drones. As a result of a strike on an apartment building, a married couple and a pensioner were injured. 5 apartments and a beauty salon on the first floor were damaged. The drone also severely wounded a resident of Primorsky, a man who later died in the hospital. In Sumy, a drone struck the Holy Resurrection Cathedral. This is an architectural monument of national significance and one of the main symbols of the city. And at night, the occupiers struck again, causing the building to catch fire. Its roof was completely destroyed, vehicles were damaged by the blast wave, and windows were blown out in nearby apartment buildings, a school, and a hospital. Police say the enemy drones were packed with shrapnel for maximum damage. In the Kherson region, Belozerka came under a combined enemy attack. Rescuers managed to put out the fires despite the threat of repeated shelling. And at night, the Russians once again remotely mined the streets of Kherson. All morning, bomb disposal experts were neutralizing petal mines, which were even found near the hospital. During the day, the war criminals shelled the city center with artillery. An educational institution was hit, and a security guard was hospitalized with blast injuries and shrapnel wounds.
The shelling started in the years 2011 to 2020. It was the same situation before, and then it happened yet again. This isn't the first of these occurrences. This is already a strong third time.
Special forces of the Main Intelligence Directorate of Ukraine successfully struck an enemy Black Sea Fleet ship near Novorossiysk. And now this vessel has been put out of action for repairs. The intelligence service has released video footage of the attack on another valuable military target of the occupiers, reporting that it concerns a multi-purpose vessel project with a value of about $60 million. It was put into operation in 2015, and there are only 4 such vessels in Russia. It is known that the attacked vessel was used in particular for electronic intelligence and for patrolling the approaches to the bays where the occupiers' ships are based. As a result of the strike, the equipment was destroyed, Ukrainian intelligence added. The occupiers have launched almost 6,000 kamikaze drones at our positions on the front line. The enemy is trying to control the skies along the line of contact as much as possible in order to prevent our defense forces from counterattacking the Russians. The most difficult situation remains in the Pokrovsk direction. There, the highest number of attacks was recorded, 57 in a single day. The occupiers are trying to regain control over the recently recaptured villages of Volodymyrivka and Zoloty Kolodias and to break through to Rodinske and Udakhne. It is no less intense in the Novopavlivka direction. There, more than 30 attempts by the Russians to retake our positions and advance even closer to Dnipropetrovsk region have been recorded. The settlement of Siversk is appearing more and more frequently in the General Staff's reports. There, enemy attacks have intensified just as much as in the Lyman direction. The Russians are doing everything they can to push deeper into Donetsk region, but despite this, the defense forces are holding their positions firmly. The flower of death. That is what the soldiers of the 141st Mechanized Brigade call their self-propelled artillery unit, the Gvozdika. The gun crews destroy the enemy on the approaches, striking enemy columns of equipment and Russian assault groups. The unit includes both newcomers and soldiers who had previously deserted their posts. Our Daria Nazarova spent time on combat duty with the artillerymen in the Zaporizhzhia direction, and now she will tell you all about it.
We're heading to the position to join the self-propelled artillery crew. Call sign, Vislik.
Right now, the guys need to keep a close eye on the sky because enemy FPV drones could appear in this area.
The closer you get to the front line, the more deserted the villages become. There are wrecked cars on the road. Just a few weeks ago, villagers could travel this way freely. Now enemy FPV drones reach this area.
Sorry, only those cars that are completely burned out. There are still many more that are damaged, abandoned, and so on. Constantly.
A brief stop. Right now it's dangerous to drive up to the position.
At the moment, we need to wait a bit. It's not safe to be near the position right now. We don't need to risk things for the sake of time. So for now, we'll wait. It's better to keep our distance from our positions.
Less than 10 kilometers from the occupiers, the Gvozdika self-propelled gun is in action. The gun has come under enemy fire more than once.
You can see that our gun is marked with battle scars. You can see that we try to protect and cover everything as best we can. You can see how the helmet was damaged by shrapnel brought in by the blasts.
In the unit led by the young commander Cowboy, both recently mobilized soldiers and experienced fighters who transferred from other brigades are fighting.
They don't have a routine. Every day is different for them. Here they can find themselves and show what they're capable of, and that's really great. We're working, and overall the guys are doing an awesome job. Despite the fact that the unit is newly formed, it's performing very well. The unit is scaling and developing rapidly.
In another brigade, I worked as a mortar operator. I was forced to be a senior gunner and Kesha's spotter.
Not to run away, hide, or escape.
After joining Cowboy's formidable group, he quickly proved himself to be a truly skilled and capable fighter. Volodymyr was a builder in civilian life. Now he's responsible for the shells. He doesn't have a call sign yet and has only been fighting for 2 months. He says he volunteered for the war following the example of his brothers.
It was my younger brother. He immediately joined the artillery in the 24th Brigade. That's how I ended up here.
He recommended artillery to you. Judging by enemy intercepts, the guys say the occupiers really hate the self-propelled artillery units. And among our fighters, they call it the flower of death. It strikes enemy bunkers, destroys enemy manpower, and with just a few shots, it can even stop an enemy assault. We have a target. The brigade's aerial reconnaissance has detected a concentration of Russian assault troops.
On those same systems, the crew is ready to fire. The personnel were gathering at the farm. The second shell hit the target, and then 2 more control shots for good measure.
An equally difficult task is to leave the position. Enemy FPV drones are lying in wait on the roads.
They can easily spot you if you proceed in one direction and then, quite unexpectedly, decide to return. Very often, they just land right on the roads. And they wait for vehicles.
Back at the command post, Cowboy says that at the intersection of Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia regions, the Russians are not giving up their attempts to break through the defensive line.
Right now, they're trying to regroup in order to continue their assault operations in the future.
The fighters are putting up a worthy resistance.
On coffee and enthusiasm. For coffee and patriotic food.
Daria Nazarova, Zaporizhzhia. TSN 1+1.
Latvia, following Poland, is closing the airspace over the border with Russia and Belarus. This was announced by Defense Minister Andriy Spruts. Flights over the border are being banned for a week for now, but the restrictions may be extended further. Earlier, Poland announced the suspension of air traffic near the border with Ukraine and Belarus, with exceptions only for military or specially authorized aircraft, such as medical flights. In the near future, the UN Security Council will convene to discuss the 19 Russian drones that entered Polish territory the day before. The European Union has condemned this Russian attack. Even Hungary did not block the joint decision, despite the fact that fighter jets and an American tanker were scrambled. Only 4 out of 19 drones were shot down. The others crashed in various parts of Poland, mostly when they ran out of fuel. Warsaw has appealed to NATO for additional Patriot systems, and the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, emphasized this. The Russian provocation has shown that NATO needs to seriously work on the air defense system of the alliance's member states.
I would like to point out that European air defense, NATO's air defense did work, but of course not nearly as well as it should have in order to prevent such a large number of drones from entering Polish airspace in advance, or to immediately neutralize them. This has sparked discussions within NATO and of course has also started debates in the EU.
A direct hit video footage of our air defenders' impressive work has appeared online. In these shots, you can see the crew of a Ukrainian Mi-8 helicopter pursuing their target. In the end, they shoot down the Russian-Iranian heavy kamikaze drone Shahed-136. The footage shows the Ukrainian helicopter opening fire on the enemy drone with its onboard machine gun. After being hit, the Shahed catches fire, and our pilots continue to escort it in the air. A masterclass for Polish soldiers. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has accepted Volodymyr Zelensky's proposal and will send his troops to Ukraine to learn how to counter drones. At a press conference with Finnish President Alexander Stubb in Kyiv, the President of Ukraine stated that the methods used by Polish air defense forces the previous day to combat Russian drones, namely Patriot systems and aviation, are too expensive and not very effective. According to him, Patriot systems are primarily intended to counter ballistic missiles, not to repel massive drone attacks. The Ukrainian president also emphasized that effective defense is only possible in a multi-system format with interceptor drones, mobile fire units, teams, aviation, and electronic warfare means. Zelenskyy also added that joint work between Ukrainian and European air defense forces is possible. For this, air defense systems must be deployed in Ukraine, while aviation can operate from Polish territory. NATO spent at least 1.2 million euros to shoot down drones during the attack in Poland. This was reported by Bild. On the night of September 10th, Patriot air defense systems from Germany and modern F-35 fighter jets from the Netherlands were among those deployed to protect Ukraine's airspace. It was with AEM-9 Sidewinder missiles launched from F-35s that 3 Russian drones were destroyed. This has been officially confirmed. However, as a high-ranking NATO officer notes, using these fighter jets against drones makes no military sense, since it involves enormous costs. For example, launching just one missile from a fighter jet costs over 400,000 euros. And according to journalists' calculations, there should have been 3 launches. So the total cost of such an aerial engagement ended up being a hefty sum for NATO, especially compared to the cheap Russian drones, each of which costs only a few thousand euros. U.S. President's special envoy Keith Kellogg has arrived in Kyiv, according to Ukrainian media. The details of Trump's envoy's visit are not yet known, but it is taking place against the backdrop of rising tensions in the Eastern European region. Earlier, CNN reported that while en route to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg came under attack by Russian drones in Poland. Also, after the massive Russian airstrike on September 7th, during which the Cabinet of Ministers building was damaged, Keith Kellogg stated that there is a threat of a dangerous escalation of the war by the Russian Federation. Ukrainians have a positive view of Keith Kellogg's presence in Ukraine, as his presence usually deters the aggressor state from launching massive air attacks. cufflinks from the White House, and letters with best wishes from Melania. Donald Trump continues to flirt with dictators, this time with Belarus's self-proclaimed president Lukashenko. What his response is and what he wants will be explained by TSN's International Review by Yana Serchuk.
The August letter from Nobel laureates who asked Trump to increase pressure on the Belarusian dictator Lukashenko did not help. In Minsk, Trump's representative John Cole announces on camera that American sanctions have been lifted from Belarusian Airlines Belavia.
Conversation.
The conversation between our president aboard Air Force One and your president was very productive. All our discussions with each other have been very productive. Now we are lifting the sanctions from Belavia right now. At
the same time, 52 former prisoners who had been held in Belarusian prisons are crossing the Lithuanian border, among them 16 foreign citizens. Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda is the first to thank Trump for the release of his 6 fellow citizens.
I just want to note that the American efforts were indeed very effective and successful.
The Belarusian dictator is very skilled at trading in people. Even before the start of the full-scale Russian war, he was terrorizing Poland and Lithuania with migrants, whom he deliberately brought in from troubled countries in the Middle East and Africa for that very purpose. And already in Belarus, with the help of security forces, he created an actual corridor for them from Minsk, where the planes landed, to the forest, to the European border, and would not let them out from there. This pressure from the security forces, along with the unusual frosts, forced desperate people to literally storm the border, while the Poles and Lithuanians, on their side, did everything possible to reinforce it. Dear Mr. Lukashenko, Melania joins me in sending our best wishes. For Lukashenko, who has been marginalized in recent years, these gestures of attention are much more advantageous than for Trump, who displays them in hopes of freeing more people. This potentially legitimizes Lukashenko on the world stage just as much as Alaska did for Putin. But American sanctions are nowhere near as damaging to Minsk as the European ones. That's why now Lukashenko has to hope that by releasing even more prisoners, he will eventually see Trump put pressure on European partners as well. He still has more than 1,000 people imprisoned for political reasons to bargain with. I am Pavlo Sadovnikov, TSN 1+. 1.
They search for survivors under the rubble at the sites of strikes and recover the bodies of the dead on the front line. And during breaks between work, they compete. In the Dnipropetrovsk region, the best rescue dogs were chosen, those who will represent the country at the World Championship next year. Usually the skills of search dogs are the result of years of training on special grounds. But now the dogs are learning in real conditions, often at risk to their own lives. Anastasia Naverna will tell you more.
A dense pine forest where a woman went missing a few days ago. The phone signal indicated an approximate location, so the search needs to be conducted in this area. The initial sweep yielded no results, so they brought in the dogs.
We would like
you to effectively work this entire area with your trained dog to save valuable energy and precious time, and to help the distressed person as quickly and safely as possible.
The young Belgian shepherd named Mara is eager to move forward. She receives a special command. And she rushes off to search. Mara needed just 40 seconds to find the person lost in the forest. She barks to signal that she has found her. And on top of that, the person found gets showered with kisses. Working in the dense forest is part of the national competition for rescue dogs and one of the stages of selection for the championship.
This tests both the dog, how well it can find a person, how skillfully it uses its nose, and how well the dog and handler work together as a team.
When it comes to searching for a real missing person, everything happens in much the same way, say the dog handlers. In fact, the dog Antares has already found more than a dozen people, and thus saved lives.
I even found a living person. We started searching for a body. Buffy found a living person whom we had just seen. After 2 days, they found a living person. And we also have Doberman Pana, who found a living person on this very day.
The competition is just a short break for these dogs. Now, their mission is difficult, responsible, and often risky. All of them are involved in searching for people under the rubble after Russian strikes. They find the bodies of fallen participants in combat zones. In March 2023, during the search for the bodies of the dead in the Kharkiv region, Larissa and her faithful partner Besha were blown up by a landmine. The dog handler spent several days in a coma. Then came long months of treatment. She admits that she was never able to fully recover. Some exercises are difficult for both of them. That's why they lost points.
I was told they wanted the turns to be more precise. For now, I am unable to fully execute the turn with my entire body and legs, and that is precisely why it does not work out as intended.
The obedience competition is designed to test how well dogs and their owners sense and understand each other. After that, the four-legged participants face the obstacle course. One of the best was a young dog named Haku. He scored 90 out of 100 points. Now he's happily jumping around, trying to grab the TSN microphone. Haku is from Odessa, and even now, often wearing down his paws, he works at the sites of missile strikes, trying to find people who are still alive.
It's tough for the young ones. At the very last strike, several floors collapsed, and it was quite dangerous work because it was hard for the dogs to operate at such heights. The dogs worked on leashes, and we were backed up for safety. We were at that rubble site for 17 hours.
These competitions will last for several days, and the best dogs will go on to represent Ukraine at the World Championship next year. The dog handlers hope that by then their charges will have more time to train, because hopefully there will no longer be any buildings destroyed by enemy attacks. Anastasia Neverna, Vladislav Commission, Dnipropetrovsk region for TSN 1+1.